And Obey, formerly the guys on Eager, still same team, new look. As Elevate will be banning out Ymir. Across the way, we see the Kabrakan ban. No real surprise here. I'm glad that teams are starting to ban Hunbats. He's too good.
It took a little bit of time, but they're catching on. And no more nuisance, no more monkey games.
Nah, not going to happen today. Susano, first pick. Love the mobile jungler coming out for Elevate. Obey, you're going to respond. I would love to see a Poseidon here, or an Odin's all right. Susano can get out of the cage. We know that Obey Dwarst loves his Odin. And we'll see the Xing Chen. Correction, Dwarst loves his Xing Chen.
I was just about to say, anytime you see that Xing Chen locked in, you can just basically assume that it's going to go the way of Dwarst. And we've seen him exemplify so much control on it as well that it's just always a pleasure getting to see him in action with it.
Scotty and Geb. That's a lane. That's certainly a lane. That's a really rough lane. Geb, not number one, but paired with Scotty. I mean, one, you can kind of put anybody with Scotty. And two, one of Scotty's bad situations, her negatives, is the fact that she gets into trouble a lot. Geb can get her out of trouble.
And just like Geb can get Scotty out of trouble, Khepri can certainly get anybody on his team out of trouble. So really interested to see what kind of hunter pick Obey tries to opt for here. If Elevate don't ban out the Medusa, which they actually just chose to do. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see Air Cougar opt for potentially a Neath or even a Rom in this situation. I think that both of them are picks that he likes to lean towards. We've seen him before on her as well, but probably a Rom or a Neath, since Neath is a lot more team-oriented.
With the Neath, would you think that, wouldn't there be a lack of damage on Obey?
A lack of damage? Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, because the thing that you have to consider is when you're picking a Neath for a duo lane, you're primarily looking for setup at the early to mid-game stages. As soon as she hits level 5, you want to spam that ultimate as much as possible. But he's picking the aggro route and going with the on her.
Wants to go fight people. Obey Alliance has Odin, Xing Chen. A lot of tankiness. Elevator going to fight through that with Vulcan, Geb, Scotty, Susano. Drafts. Who wins?
I couldn't really call it right off the bat, but I would probably have to give it to Obey.
All right. Well,
we've seen how well that this three-man tanky front line has worked out for them before, and they're trying to just run it back. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
We'll see how it works out. Obey Alliance taking on Elevate right here, right now.
And already you can see both these teams just looking for the standard start.
Yep.
No reason not to.
Yeah, nothing too out of the ordinary. Teams just want to really do it. I like to see the chalk band coming out from Obey, even though they had the Odin, which will be a jungle Odin, surprisingly enough. Even though they had the Odin, they still wanted to ban the chalk. I think that's really interesting right there.
Also, I take back what I just said. Jelly actually on that Khepri lingering around the solo lane side. So it looks as though Obey are opting to have their support go into the solo lane to just help out Dwarce a little bit with that Xing Chen clear.
Yeah, early on, so Xing Chen clear doesn't come on. It's not there at level 1. It doesn't come on super late, but it's certainly not there at level 1. Popping the Khepri over there in lane, certainly going to amplify that, so we'll see how that one works out. I think it should be positive. Whereas in the mid lane, also very positive. Odin and Poseidon certainly going to clear very strongly, but instead of taking the normal aggressive route where we see these players go ahead and look for the invade, instead they'll play nice and safe and look for the mid Harpies.
And it's interesting because I wonder if Obey are going to by chance look to hook around onto these elementals, but Mifflin more interested in securing those mid camps with Delta Marine. And small skirmish going on right now. Jelly in a lot of trouble as he's already poked out pretty low. Level 2 on the side of Elevate. Could this be the end? Meditation.
Meditation saves the day. I was actually going to mention that Jelly took the aggressive pathing right away when he looked for some of the damage with the Rising Dawn as he comes down here by the elementals. And I started thinking to myself, this is really aggressive out of him, but the aggro play doesn't go too terribly. The slow, I was worried about that slow on the Sun Wukong Master Will, but still able to get out of jail, so no big deal. Kugi, on the other hand, big bite. Michael Checo just sends one his way. Half HP already for the honor. Ouch.
That's just what Scotty does best, though, really. I mean, you leave her alone in that dual lane, the exact situation she wants to be in. She's going to outclear pretty much any hunter other than maybe Rom because of his Astro Arrows for the first wave where he starts out with 5 of those. but her lane clearing is just so strong early on.
And like you said, she wants to be alone. When Scotty started coming out, not necessarily in the pro scene, but just being taken out, you know, in general, it was mid lane Scotty, right? She wants that solo farm, no supports allowed. And I mean, well, if Jelly's going to start across the world, so will Kenshin, and Michael Checo gets just what he signed up for.
And I really like what Air Cougar has chosen to do here. We've seen a couple of on-hers where they've been starting with the Death's Toll and Tier 1 Transcendence. I prefer the Boots Rush because even with the Boots, he's going to have the pots for sustain against this Scotty lane matchup, knowing that he's probably going to be getting out cleared. And on top of that, when you're rushing mobility against a god like Scotty, it's the perfect scenario in order to get away from Kaldar.
That's the key right there, is that I think builds are extremely situational. Dwarf's in a bad situation right now, but he'll be able to hop away. And when it comes down to it, you look at a character like Anher. The Transcendence, sure, you can go for it, but I'm not a big fan of how long it takes everything to really get going for Anher specifically, because by the time he's done with the Transcendence, it's kind of, he's already over what he's trying to do.
Exactly, and so sure, you might not necessarily get that initial power spike that a lot of hunters tend to go for, but facing off against a Scotty, what is the likelihood that you're actually going to be successful with finding that damage? Probably slim to none.
Yeah, and that's the second point. When you're looking at builds, specifically for the hunters, one, you look at the hunter that you currently are. If I'm Cupid, I might buy some CDR. If I'm Rom, I'm definitely not. I look at my opponent, Scotty. Listen, I'm not gonna power spike harder than Scotty, so let her do the Transcendence, I'll do my own thing. And then of course you look across the way. You've got not just a Scotty, but also a Susano who's gonna be hunting you down. Yeah, I want to run really fast. That's my goal right now. So Boots 3, absolutely the first choice for Air Cougar 72.
And now the Doctor is hanging around this mid lane territory, wanting to secure these left mid camps by himself, knowing that they're 3-man strong in Obey, but Mifflin not just going to let him get it off free-handed.
I like that play coming out from Obey, because right there, if I'm Dr. L, I'm looking at Jelly take his aggressive pathing, and we know at this point that Jelly likes to go for these aggressive pathings, excuse me. And if I'm Dr. L, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, Jelly, yum. But Mifflin reads the situation, sees that his support is getting red, and jumps over the wall, making sure that Dr. L has to eject out of the situation. Nice little multifaceted, very quick scenario that it goes to show just how many decisions pros have to make in a very small amount of time.
And I'm also really interested to see how Mifflin utilizes this Odin pick, because, speaking of picks, Cougar's not scared in the slightest, just immediately looking for Checo and forcing out the Aegis already. He's got the Impale up in a couple of seconds, but just off the mark.
We didn't see the abduct that I kind of expected. Vulcan over the top, immuned out by Poseidon. Delta Marine, no big deal. That's going to be first blood. Baronic falls down to the hand of Obey. Mifflin low, that's going to be the answer. As Dr. L able to put one on the board for himself. Here comes the Kraken from Delta Marine. Not enough to take down the enemies. Dr. L half HP, Kenshin as well. And his buddy Michael Checo, same thing. So Obey, go ahead, pick up their first blood for a 500 gold bounty, but Elevate able to answer right on back. In all honesty, Taco, even with that 500 gold bounty, Elevate still find themselves up just as much.
And there's the attack that you're waiting for, but a little bit too late as Jelly. Oh no, that is so unfortunate. He was looking for the abduct and then the setup for Cougar with the Pillar Stun Impale, but Cougar was off the mark, and Creeps made Jelly pay the price on top of the Calder aggro still being on him. Just nowhere to go for the bug.
Third time's the charm. Jelly's in trouble. I'll explain that statement in a moment. Mifflin here on the left side, Dwarfs on the right side, and Jelly goes the only option available to him. Helped out by Baronic. So the first time we see Jelly hyper-aggressive, he has meditation. The second time we have Jelly Mike hyper-aggressive, he has Mifflin to hop over the wall. The third time we see Jelly Mike hyper-aggressive, he actually dies for it. That right there, and that was Jelly's playstyle in the jungle. That's been Jelly's playstyle on Sylvanas, on every character he plays. He's very aggressive, and for what it's worth, Obey has been successful off of this aggression in the support role. But that shows you the other side of the coin. That listen, when you're gunning, when you're going 100 miles an hour, sometimes you swerve.
That's a really good way to put it, too, in all honesty. But on top of that, though, because Jelly fell so early on to Michael Checo, that's the perfect situation for a Scotty player to be in. Not only did it give him a little bit of gold, but the experience boost. He's already been out-pressuring Cougar in this lane, which is, you know, granted, that's expected. But the fact is, he's even closer to that Transcendence. He's going to be hitting just a little bit harder now with that Kaldar. And then on top of that, just the experience lead.
Yeah, that's really the key right there. Number one in the game as far as gold amassed right now, net worth as we call it. And our teams, the experience is actually the only relevant difference. 727 gold is really nothing to write home about, but seeing the 1200 XP, I mean, that's a fair amount when you look at the state of the game and where everybody's at. And right now in the mid lane, that actually might be powerful for them to be able to use, but instead slinking back and watching Obey go towards the Oracles, giving them up. All right, so Obey has division over there on the left side of the map.
Obey's early on 3v3 composition as far as mid, Guardian, and Jungler is concerned is probably a little bit more favored towards the early game. You don't really want to fall victim to Mifflin with that Odin Bird Bomb, because that is a significant amount of damage to just automatically lose.
And Elevator doing a great job of waiting this out, which is kind of what you got to do against characters like Odin and Thanatos, right? Where, listen, they do things during the middle and late game. They're not useless, but this is their domain. This is the early game. You don't mess with this. Listen, I might take Usain Bolt up on some Madden, but I'm not going to race him, all right? So you don't go toe-to-toe in the early game with Arachne, with an Odin, or a Thanatos. And Mifflin's certainly ready to jump on people if Elevate take the bait. Right side looks like that's exactly what they'll do. Delny pops an ultimate of his own, and Dr. L's the one in trouble. Delny just watching, not willing to help out his teammate. And Dr. L has to use everything he can to escape, and it's still not enough. Mifflin finds the jump. 2-1-0. The jungler gets things started off early. Just what we were warning against.
But how much help could Delny really provide to
He could have given him a slow. He could have slowed. He could have slowed.
But Odin with a jump. It closes the gap pretty. Yeah,
I'm totally kidding. There's no way.
It's always hilarious, though, as the jungler, whenever you go in and then you just look around, you're like, bro,
yeah,
where'd you go?
That's, where's I ganked your lane.
Back to the tower.
I ganked your lane, you went home. And meanwhile, Delny is happy about it. He's like, look, man, I've got 2 levels above my enemy solo laner. You came in, you took the pressure off of me a little bit. Oh, did you die? Oh, my bad. I didn't notice. I'm happy. I got to back to base and buy some items, because that's really, as a solo laner, you want that breathability. You want that breathing room. And it's the time that you get to back and get to walk to lane instead of teleporting, that's a solo's dream. You don't want to use that relic, or you don't want to use that relic in a spot where, you know what, in a minute, I could have teleported over to the Gold Fury and stuck that. So that becomes really a big talking point for solo laners.
And what I also think is another important aspect is the fact that Mifflin is opting for the Breastplate of Valor on Odin, which, of course, you're very accustomed to seeing this, but as a jungler, you can have a little bit more leniency as far as your standard Odin build. You obviously want to rush a CDR still, but him opting for the defensive route over a damage route just tells me that he's certainly looking to just be a front-lining member at this point in time, really take advantage of his early bird bomb damage and just try to exert as much map pressure as possible.
That's the key. Early game, a lot of the damage. So the jungle solo lane combination out of Obey is all about, let's say, 25% damage, 75% control, right? And in this early game, we're looking at 20% of that 25 coming from Odin and 5% of it coming from the Xing Chen. Late game, that's going to shift. Xing Chen with his percent damage is going to wind up doing more. Whereas when that bird bomb damage, the base values fall off a little bit, we're going to see more of the control come out from both the ring and, I'll mention it, the slow on Gungir's Might. I think that might be my least favorite ability.
I think it has to be your least favorite ability in the game at this point. But much to Obey's delight, though, one of their most favorite things in the game is early gold Furies.
Oh, yeah. Half HP on the objective, leashed, and there's a shot in from Kenshin, who stuns 2 players out with his ultimate. Vulcan from long range brings Air Cougar down to half. Not enough to kill just yet. Dr. L launches his ultimate into the Wild Blue yonder. Not going to find anybody with that one either, but perhaps more importantly, Elevate chase the opposition off of the Gold Fury, and that's exactly what they're looking for, Taco. Just some space.
Forcing Obey to reset that Gold Fury is pretty important, but you also have to consider they expended 4 of their ultimates to do so. But Obey has 4 of their ultimates remaining. The only ultimate that they used was an Odin cage, and even then, the cooldown on that's already shorter.
Yeah.
And they're probably still going to be looking at pressuring out that Gold Fury, considering that they have the team fighting advantage.
That is what I would consider the right move, but will Elevate give them the window? Because even without the ultimates online, Kenshin, the Geb can still do his job. A little bit of disruption with a knockup and a shield, right? Dr. L can still do his job pulling players. That's one of the better plays that you can do on the Susanoo, is you can wrap around the enemy and pull multiple players off the gold, literally forcing the reset.
But this is also probably the most vulnerable time of the game for a Geb. He isn't quite tanky enough just yet. Even with the tank boots and the Mark of the Vanguard, he's still very vulnerable to a lot of burst damage, which is what Obey can provide with the Kraken and Air Cougar's ultimate as well. So they're definitely going to have to look out for that. Kenshin in particular, because that's probably going to be the prime target that they're gunning for.
Kenshin, a longtime member of the SMITE console scene. A strong member as well. Here he was playing support on Elevate. Remember Columbus, he was playing back when Penumbra was playing. He was playing over for Epsilon. That's where we met up with Aggro, and you all know the story about Aggro winding up here. So Kenshin, still in the good graces, still in the SMITE console scene.
And not so good graces is Delta Marine and the rest of Obey, but now it's actually Doctor having the tides turned on him entirely. Underneath the Odin ring, straight into the Poseidon damage with nowhere to run.
And you got on me before, and yet you're sticking with the tides turning on Poseidon. I see you, Aggro Jr.
That's actually because of Moswall. Moswall will forever tell me the tables are turning or the tides are turning. And it always sticks to me, and every time I even say it out loud, it comes out in his voice.
Half HP, even less on the Gold Fury.
But no commit from Obey. They wanted the fight.
It's the threat. It's also the threat of the Vulcan ultimate. It's been enough time for that to come up, and Vulcan can just clean that up. Obey very well aware. There's the toss, and that's what they're looking for. Big shot out of Vulcan, but no, not enough to kill anybody. Dwarfs trying to help things out with the Xing Chen, and here's Delny all the way on the back end, forcing out the ultimate. So many players low. Elevate can really punish if they hard commit. Instead, they're looking for the objective because they've done enough damage. They know that Obey can't fight into it. The Kraken is down, so even the few players that are healthy, Taco, they just don't have the tools.
It's all up to Mifflin, leaving Delta Marine to die if anything, but just a little too late on that Odin jump over the wall, but forces out the Scotty ultimate still. Dwarves is back in action and ready for some damage. Unfortunately, taking a decent chunk of his own health with it, though.
With the Gold Fury going down, Elevate take the lead by about 1,500, just shy of it, and 15 minutes on the clock, and 5, which is 5 kills in total. 3 of them belong to Obey. I thought I was going to get really clever there, but I couldn't figure out my math terminology. Down goes the Portal Demon. It gets snatched away by Elevate. Obey thought that they were doing one thing funny, but Dwarst gets the kill onto Dr. L, but the Portal Demon goes to Elevate. So both objectives get taken down, and that's going to clean things up to a more suitable 2K for Elevate. I think that's a little bit better than 15.
Nowadays, teams are a lot more familiar with the fact that, hey, if we secure Gold Fury, the enemy team is probably going to immediately respond by just trying to pick up that Portal Demon, take it off the map, pick up that extra 150 gold per player. But unfortunately for Obey, the Kraken was just a little bit off the mark from Delta Marine, and it was just at the threshold for Doc to just steal it away.
Losing that Portal Demon in these early phases of the game doesn't sting so bad, though, because you're not really using the portal for the Fire Giant application, and 150 gold is not a lot, but a lot. It's meaningful, right? You want that, but it doesn't hurt like you're losing the Gold Fury, per se.
It's not losing the Portal Demon gold, really, that is the main concern. It's the fact that your team has rotated over to that one side of the map to try and pick it up. So for 1 or 2 players to come in and snatch that opportunity away from you, and not only is your team out of position, speaking of out of position, that could potentially be the story for Delta Marine right now as he falls down to Scotty ultimate, Vulcan flying through the air, but Jelly's out.
Big play coming out from Dr. L, able to pull Delta Marine into wherever the damage was going. Very good play from Dr. L, who barely escapes, just staying alive by the skin of his teeth. Very nice play coming out from the jungler there to just secure the fact that our mid lane goes down.
And, you know, this is something I didn't really get to touch on before we jumped into the game through picks and bans phase. But a Vulcan and a Geb, along with the Scotty, are probably three of the best gods for dealing with an Odin ring. And you wouldn't imagine it being that way, considering that none of them can escape. But their AoE control inside of confined spaces is beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot. Not to mention I think the worst one of those abilities is the meatball. And that's one of the better control abilities, I think, in the entire game. So to be able to drop that on your feet, obviously Kenshin has his ultimate and a number of abilities coming out from Mr. Checo over there on the left side. So certainly a lot of options, like you said. And the Odin, where does Odin peak? Because we've spent a lot of this game talking about the fact that Odin, listen, he's going to run the early game and then transition, right? So where is Odin, where does he peak? Where does that damage start to fall off?
Probably... he starts peaking around level 6, I'd say, because you've got 3 points typically into your Burblum Shield at that point in time. But
so we're way past it.
He starts falling off, I'd say, around levels 13, 14, where you've accepted the fact that, hey, I'm just an ulting bot at this point in time. And that's really all that Mifflin is going to be looking for, is just the setup potential, trapping the members of Elevate inside of that ring for his team to hopefully follow up on. But my main concern for Obey is, I'm not sure that Kraken and Cougar's honor damage are going to be quite enough to secure kills on the side of Elevate, because they have to have the constant concern of a Geb shield.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the number 2 on the player damage for Obey come out to be the solo lane Ching Chen. We all know about solo lane fake damage, so not too sure how good of a metric that is to show us really where the damage is coming from Obey. And it just doesn't, I'm with you, the Kraken, it's not enough by itself. Look at Scotty. He's double what we're seeing out of the mid lane Poseidon by himself. So Michael Checo absolutely having the game.
And Checo has also been placing so much pressure onto Air Cougar in this duo lane. And the thing is, Obey can't really respond too well to this, because if they rotate over and overcommit, I mean, with how Elevate's been playing things, they're just going to group up and counter-engage, and their counter-engage is pretty impactful, considering that they have that Vulcan ultimate that can come flying out of the jungle. And then on top of that, you just got to be in range for a Geb shield to come through.
Yeah, absolutely got to keep an eye on that one. Jelly just getting poked out. Again, with the aggressive positioning, the aggressive just nature of his gameplay. Another time he doesn't get punished, but we also, what happens is just all you need to do is get punished once. Jelly got punished over there, and then we saw the resulting snowball, and Elevate able to pick up an objective off of that even. So Jelly got to be a little bit careful, but as I said, I'm very cautious to be critical of his aggressive positioning, because Obey has been successful off of that style of play for so long.
And I think Mifflin's really just trying to wear down Elevate at this point in time. 30% CDR online for him already, which means that Odin Ultimate is going to be up pretty frequently. So you can't get out of it every time, and Vulcan Ultimate won't be up to counteract it every single time either, alongside of the Geb or Scotty. So positioning will start to matter in these teamfight engagements.
Oracles are up, and these look to go the way of Elevate. PB and Jelly making the aggressive wraparound one more time. Finds a great route, and there's going to be Mifflin dropping the ring. Damage onto the Honor and the Kraken. Not enough. Baronic's still very much alive. Well saved by Geb. Half HP on the Vulcan, but everybody else very comfortable. Dwarf comes forward trying to find Baronic with his ult. Can't find it and won't. Pop, long range, ultimate from Vulcan, brings Air Cougar down to 10%, even lower. He's gonna get the ultimate from Jelly on top of him, and it's enough to save him, or at least deter. Now everybody else from Obey trying to find a way out. Elevate certainly have control of this. Well, they've got the HP. I don't know if they have control over the situation, but the Gold Sphere has respawned one more time. And just like last episode, Obey gets chased out, Elevate start the Gold Fury, but this time, Obey a little bit stronger.
3 members strong, but I'm not sure that it'll be enough. They don't have a perfect way to try and secure the damage. Plus, I don't think Elevate care too much about that Gold Fury as much as they care about the fight.
Another pull into the ring sets up Baronic this time around, which is just a fantastic play. I love that we're seeing Dr. L push pull his opponents into the ring that they drop down. Naturally, the spears aren't giving trouble, but Mifflin is dropping this ring down to prevent people from going on his team. And Dr. L just brings them with him. All right, fine. In comes the ring, but I'm going to bring your teammate with us. We're going to find the kills. 2 dead on the side of Obey. Elevate wind up looking pretty one more time. 3K in the lead.
And Obey, they can't even look to siege onto that Gold Fury because they know that with all the members of Elevate being well alive and available, they're just going to rotate in, if anything. Kenshin's hanging around the corner just in case Obey even thinks about making a move on that Gold Fury.
Not going to be the case just yet. 9 kills in total as we pass our 22nd minute. Elevate leading very well after a couple of objectives, not even stolen, just taken. A single Gold Fury, Portal Demon was stolen, and some lives certainly stolen as well. 5 in total for the Red Mountains. And Michael Checo here on the Scotty, certainly looking very strong. 3-0-1, 4 out of 5 of the kills have had his paw print on top of them. And now he's in trouble, Taco. Ultimate out of the mid lane mage. Not enough to take Checo down. Geb Shield is not enough to secure him away from Cougs. Beautiful pull! Beautiful pull! That's the assist! Dr. L pulls the Hunter into the ultimate out of Baronic. Fantastic! It's a 2 for 2. Dr. L picks up another one, and Mifflin, he's the only one that can actually help out Dworst. Will he choose to? Dr. L gets picked up, beads are used, it's a 2-on-3.
And now Dworst on the run from Dr. L, unable to put any more damage onto that tanky Xing 10, but Mifflin forced to expend his blink just to get away from the Sun Wukong.
Oh man, Gold Fury, sure. Yeah, Dworst, do something. That play.
They're wrapping back around.
Oh, both of them are. I like the fact that they come from 2 separate directions, but still, I'm not sure if they're tanky enough. 2.5 tank items on Dworst. And he's just going to distract, and in all honesty, that's his goal here, Taco. It's not about Obey trying to steal this Gold Fury. It's about Obey making Elevate waste too much time. I don't think he wanted to die there, though.
I don't think that Dworst wanted to fall down just yet because now that's a 40-second respawn timer at this stage of the game. Gold Fury is still available, and everybody is alive now for Elevate. What looked like should have been such an excellent engagement for Obey just completely spun out of control from one Vulcan ultimate.
That was such an incredible play by Dr. L. I kept talking about how, or I mentioned it once. All right, I wasn't continuing to talk about it. But Mifflin keeps dropping down this ring, and Dr. L says, wait, I want to bring one of your buddies in with me, usually the Poseidon, and then they beat him up while they're in the ring anyway, and Mifflin's like, well, I guess I'm not doing much. This time it wasn't the ring, it was the Vulcan ult. He was out. Cougar was gone, and he gets pulled back into it by Dr. L. Love to see that sort of play. That's going to secure the, well, it was the 8th kill. Mifflin winds up being, Dworst winds up being the 9th. But by the way, things certainly coming up Millhouse or Elevate.
The other thing, too, is that this is actually a fairly low kill count game for how many engagements these two teams have been having. It just seems like it's so difficult for Elevate to find kills because they're facing off against 3 tanky Guardians, and then for Obey, they're just having issues persevering through the Geb shields.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger issues that we see Obey heading up against now. It's not the Khepri that they have to fight into. That's on their own team. But the Geb shield certainly makes things a little bit troublesome. Quarter life on PD, and he'll be retreated from. There's Kenshin, nice double stun. Where's the follow-up, though? No hard commit. All ultimates available for Obey, just opting not to just yet.
And now, Delaney forced to use his ultimate, trying to get out. Mifflin didn't really want to jump there. That's a Kaldar hanging around your ankles, buddy.
And there's the group up meditation coming out from Elevate, looking for the re-engage. No ultimate available from Flat Kenshin, but he does have Baronic to lean on. There's a shot from a long range. Cougar, not enough to kill. Delaney puts it in the hole. That's going to be a dead Hunter right there on the side of Obey. 5-4. It's enough to keep Obey stationary. And Elevate able to look towards the Portal Demon.
I think that was a little bit of a misclick from Jelly trying to get his ultimate down onto Cougar, but unfortunately, Dworst is the one who eats it, and now, with a large portion of their damage gone, they just had to forfeit that Portal Demon. Yeah,
nothing they could really do about that. I mean, the Kraken was available for Poseidon, but to get close enough to drop the Kraken, you're in trouble.
has Cougar been hit by every single one of these Vulcan ultimates? I feel like he's got a heat-seeking radar or something on his back, because Baronic has just been completely shutting him down with these ultimates.
There was one that the one ultimate that was off the mark, Dr. L assisted and pulled it in, and I went nuts. Yeah, no, Air Cougar is the Red October, and Elevate absolutely be hunted. Baronic out here just launching out those ultimates. Fantastic stuff. I'm all about what we're seeing at Elevate today.
And it's not even about him dying necessarily. It's just the fact that he keeps getting pushed down to 20, 30% HP. And when you're that low of health without a healer on your side other than the meditations, you have to back off. And because of that, it always puts Obey at the disadvantage.
And you know what? I just, you're a high-level player yourself, once subbing in at almost a professional level. Air Cougar, is it worse to die or get pushed out all the time at 10%? Because I feel like that almost feels worse. Where you're like, I'm alive, guys, but I'm just going to watch. Big save there. Dr. L doesn't die there. Air Cougar gets hit one more time. He can't escape. He just can't escape. Baronic picks up Delta Marine. Nice impale to save his own life, shoving Delny back into the ring. And Dworst in trouble, gets saved up by Jelly across the way. Well done.
So lucky. On the side of Obey. Huge shout-outs to Mifflin there with the Odin Ring to save the life of his hunter. And Cougar did land the impale onto the Sun Wukong to prevent him from chasing him down and landing a one on him. But, man, that is some rough stuff for Obey. And it's only getting worse for Mifflin as he's now about to fall to the likes of Delny as he picks him up.
Every time, it's all about the Jingu bang. Both kills on the monkey have come out from the long-range first ability. Elevate sticking their nose in Obey's jungle, but they're in the neutral spot right now. Fire Giant, quarter life. Obey looking on as the enemy engages on the Fire Giant. Very low, goes down. It's all Elevates. Now looking for the fight. Ketchin gets a kill. It's all about the support. Delny gets pancake flipped. Not done just yet. Still chasing up on Air Cougar, but as soon as Delta Marine drops a lake in front of him, that means it's all about the towers, baby. And Elevate looking right down the middle.
Seeing Air Cougar again at 10% HP just reminding me of what you asked me not moments ago. It's actually just as bad whether you're dying or whether you're getting pushed down to 10% HP, because either way, once you're out of the fight, you're out of the fight, and the enemy team's going to capitalize on that.
It's just, you know, when you're dead, you're looking at that black and white screen, you're like, yeah, well, you know, my bad, guys, I'm dead. When you're alive and just like, the team fight is at Fire Giant, and you're sitting at back heartbeats like, can I do something, man? Is there anything? Can I toss something? But there's nothing you can do.
It's not even Air Cougar being out of position, though. That's a phenomenal part about it, is that he's been hanging around that back line trying to position himself as far away as possible from the likes of the Susanoo and the Vulcan, but you can only go so far away from the team fight, and Baronic just keeps finding him every single time regardless.
Yeah, that's the key here, is that Baronic right now, top player damage, and a lot of times, just like I said with the solo, when you look at a character like Vulcan, we call his damage kind of fake damage because he just nah, man, this is one he has been 100% accurate. And if not, it's been 99%. He's just been on the mark with these ultimates almost every single time. It's not an easy task, and it's just impressive how many times he's gotten not just one or two, but multiple players with no inclination that Obey or have any signs of moving. Just extremely good performance out of the mid-Vulcan.
And now the siege is coming through, and with a full pen build online for Michael Checo, these towers are getting shredded.
Yeah, he's able to just chunk down towers, players alike. This is what Michael Checo is going to be doing. 3-1-6 here for the Hunter. And as we take a look on the right side of the map, last tower with an Obey tag on it will be aggressed on. Delny tanking it. Very tanky Sun Wukong. I like the early Pestilence to fight against what Xing Qian brings. But either way, doesn't matter what items are there. It's about the presence, and Delny certainly bringing it.
And now this tower, there's not a whole lot of contest that Obey can really look for here. Maybe just some slight poke potential. It's the Phoenixes they need to fight under, and it's the Phoenixes they need to worry about. Whether or not Elevate chooses to go for them, it seems as though they'd rather spend their gold.
So we always mention the fact that we want the teams to fight under the Phoenixes instead of the tier 2s, and part of that obviously is the fact that the Phoenixes are the more valuable objective, but also that the corners are a little bit tighter. Why else do we like to see these teams fall back?
It's just, once you secure that many towers off the map, you're going to have a decent amount of pocket change.
Yeah.
You should spend that, whether it's to pick up finishing builds or just even picking up a couple of rituals. That's always a good decision. Not to mention, it's just safer and it causes the enemy team to play a little bit further back. So you don't want to play super aggressively when the enemy team's planning on pushing into you.
Just about a half hour on the clock here, folks. Elevate finds themselves with a baker's dozen. Obey just about half of that. 14,000 gold in the lead is Elevate. They've had a fantastic game, largely off of the back of their jungle and mid lane. Dr. L providing a lot of assistance for what has been a flame-throwing performance from Baronic here. Michael Checo did the dirty work during the early game, then Baronic and Dr. L coming through in this mid to late game, and Delny throughout the entirety of the game has just had this control, been able to take care of his lane, frequently being a couple of levels above worst, and then help out his teammates when they need, bait, play frontline. Sun Wukong is an annoying character, and that's exactly what Delny is doing.
Not to take away from Elevate in their past performances, but this is by far the best that I've seen them playing.
Easy.
And it's pretty incredible watching all of these players be so in sync with each other, because they're taking on the former world champions, and they're giving them a pounding.
And it's not Obey just... Like you said before about Air Cougar, it's not that Air Cougar's out of position. He's getting clipped by the very end of the always accurate Vulcan ult, right? Jelly made a couple of missteps, I think, but none of those spots where he got caught out cost him the game, right? We've seen supports die at 40 minutes next to a fire giant, and that's game, right? That's not where he's dying. That's not where the issues are coming from. Delta Marine's Krakens have been fine. Mifflin did his job. It's just an Elevator playing better than Obey.
Plus, Jelly actually around level 6, 7, 8, he was hanging about half a level of experience ahead of Kenshin, despite having taken a couple of early deaths. So his farm wasn't the issue. It's really just been the team compositions. And right now, I think that Elevate just kind of outdrafted Obey.
I love the positioning coming out from Elevate. You saw Kenshin and Delny up front by themselves, Baronic all the way back, just waiting for the opportunity to launch. Fire Giant really low, about a third of HP. There's the shot off of the ultimate. Air Cougar's gonna immune it this time. Can't say the same about Jelly, but he's a tank, so much ado about nothing. Right side still very low is Delta Marine getting chunked down even more so. Air Cougar, there's no more help. Delny gets the kill. 2 picked up in the whirlpool. Delta Marine answers back. Wonderful play by him, but he falls down. 60-second timeout for him. Baronic answers. That's going to be a 1 for 3. Elevate, tearing it up. Right side lane. Delny got the control. PB and Jelly got smacked, and down goes the support. Baronic finds his 4th.
And the only member to fall on the side of Elevate was Michael Checo, but it doesn't even matter.
Frenzy?
They could still secure this Phoenix, no problem. They have the Vulcan damage. They've got the Susanoo. That Phoenix is all Elevates.
Frenzy just for the Phoenix. When they popped the Frenzy, I thought they were going to go for the win.
That's fair.
And I was a little bit surprised about that, but
100% fair play popping the Frenzy to secure that Phoenix, because it just assists the team damage overall. They might not have necessarily been able to take it immediately.
Elevate, they rally back in. They have another they have another Frenzy. I'm just looking at as soon as that teleport came in and there was 14 seconds on everybody, I thought that Elevate might have gone for the win, and I think that that would have been getting ahead of themselves.
They were thinking about that, taking the mid-Phoenix. They popped the other Frenzy that they had, but they noticed the respawn timers are actually ticking into those final 5 seconds for the roster of Obey. So safe play is to just back off.
Yeah.
Excellent Kraken by Delta Marine there, though. Had Delta Marine not gotten that Kraken off, that could have been a significantly worse situation for Obey.
Yeah, that's the fight. And that goes to show what we're seeing here in this game as Delny gets grabbed, but really isn't too concerned about it, is that Obey played that team fight very well, and yet Elevate still able to wipe 4 of them off. Like, that is exactly the type of game. It's a microcosm of how this game 1 has really been going here, as we're pretty deep into this one. Team still separated by about less than 10,000 at this point, as Obey is able to, oh, excuse me, quite
It's
a
almost
different
a
story.
20.
Yeah. I can't do math at all today.
That's all right. It was 10,000 times 2. I know what you meant to say.
Yeah, sure. I love when my co-caster stands up for me. Very low is Mifflin. Has to drop the ring defensively. Frenzy gets popped out as Air Cougar gets his ultimate chased out. And Air Cougar just might get popped. Delny lands on top with a big old chunk of damage. Not enough. Whereas PB and Jelly loses half of his HP bar thanks to Baronic. Dr. L stage left gets the kill onto Air Cougar. That's going to be the Hunter dead for the side of Obey. 5 players alive for Elevate.
Cougar really cannot catch a break this game. Even when he's escaping the Vulcan ultimate, he's just getting snagged up by the Susano. It's so difficult for him to try and stay alive against Elevate.
And, you know, like we've said this a number of times, the fact that it's not
It's really not his fault. It's not at all.
And so, it's still happening. How does Obey fix what's going on? I mean, do they just have to focus on the Vulcan a little bit more steadfastly, or?
The issue is, Obey are playing like exactly how they need to for the most part. Mifflin is dropping the cages when he needs to.
Fire Giant. Oh,
they really want to try and defend.
Okay. It goes to Elevate. I got really nervous with the Odin around, but Jelly just sliding away. Baronic with the backfire. 72's ultimate not on the money, but Delny certainly bringing it to the bank. 3 players down. Air Cougar's about to spawn, but it's going to be nobody spawning. F6 coming out of Obey. Elevate